Hello everybody, welcome back to more of the Fruit of Grisaia. Last episode we found that Yumiko snapped when she found out her home life was basically a fraud and a sham. And she cut one of her classmates, which caused a massive reaction, and she was sent to Mihama Academy, which is where she is now. So, how are we going to deal with that, you know? Let's find out right now. Early the next morning, I'm stretching in preparation for my usual running when I hear quiet footsteps on the stairs. A familiar look of mild surprise. However, where Sakaki's expression would normally shift to a frown, today it changes to something hesitant and uncertain. What's the matter? Your face red. Still carrying that fever around?
失礼ね。熱ならもうとうの昔に収まったわよ。
Good, good.
収まったわよ。
Aww.
あなたのおかげで。
Good to hear.
昨日は、いろいろとありがとう。
Oh, I really didn't do anything worth being thanked for.
したわよ。護衛の依頼のはずなのに、あんなことを一方的に話したりして。
Hey, if I don't listen, who will, right? You asked for my permission before you started talking, and I agreed to listen. There's nothing wrong with that.
そう。
I've noticed Sakaki tends to grow oddly sullen when the topic of my job comes up, but today she seems downright docile. The girl does look healthy enough. Still, it's entirely possible yesterday's events left some lingering psychological effects. Sakaki.
何かしら
As long as your request is in place, I'll protect you. Rest assured. That's all. Finishing my leg stretches, I stand up and check the clock. It's about noon. Just about time for me to be heading out. I'm gonna be running for a while, unless you need anything. Alright then, I'll see you this afternoon. Feeling Sakaki's eyes follow me from behind, I leave the dorm. I don't have much to offer Sakaki right now. A simple promise is the best I can do. Hopefully that's enough to provide some reassurance. The past can't be taken back no matter how hard you try. That's a lesson I learned myself learned all too well. All the more reason she has to value her present. Hopefully they've just given up, but fortunately the threats approaching Sakaki have grown quiet for the moment. If this pattern continues, it shouldn't be hard for me to keep my promise. And a few days later, in an echo of Sakaki's past, the hopeful present abruptly takes a sharp turn for the worse. You alright, Sakaki? Can you keep running? So she says, but it's obvious at a glance the girl's close to her limit. Harsh gasps for air interrupt the feeble words coming out of her mouth. Damn it! You caught me napping! Seemingly taking my words of regret as their cue, a number of men swiftly surround us. Protecting Sakaki from behind my back, I confront a semicircle of attackers. This sort of scene has certainly been common enough over the last month. But this time, our opposition is an entirely different league. Was this what they were aiming for all along? They stopped a car above the riverbank and came down on us suddenly. Up until that point, it was the same as usual. But as my master once told me, relying on precedent is a dangerous game. Always think outside the range of your predictions. A lesson it seems I didn't learn nearly well enough. As I readied myself for another simple one-on-one attack, the first 3 men out of the car charged me simultaneously. What? Caught by surprise, I faltered for just a moment. They seized their chance and executed a beautifully coordinated attack. The first two moved to grab my arms and legs, while the trailing man came straight at me to deliver the disabling blow. The fights would have been over in seconds if I'd misjudged the attacks from the left and right even slightly. Stooping down to avoid their grasping arms, I kicked the first man's ankle and shot my hand down to the second man's liver. Since when did they attack it? I didn't have time to catch my breath before the third man's fist came down on me from above. Sheer reflex got my elbow up in time to block the punch, but his attacks continued in an unrelenting stream. Damn it! That hurts, asshole! This guy had some impressive back muscles, and he knew how to use them. His tightly clenched fist swung down on my head with the force of 2 massive hammers. A single direct hit would have given me a concussion at the very least, and a knockout seemed a very real possibility. With a sharp battle cry, I slipped by the hammered man's side and drove my heel into his knee. The hammer stopped in its tracks. As he reflexively reached down for his right leg and followed up with a second kick. This time to the head. I'd somehow managed to bring down the first wave of attackers, but the dramatic change in their tactics was alarming. I could feel my heart thudding frantically in my chest. If they try with a bigger team, it's gonna get ugly. My instinctive response was to run for it with Sakaki in tow. Unfortunately, our enemies clearly anticipated that. Where they used to have their entire force charged down from the car, this time they've set up a second team further along the bank to cut off our retreat. I can't let them all attack at once or it's game over. I carefully sized up the group of men surrounding us. One thing's immediately clear. There's not going to be an easy way out of this time. Listen up, Sakaki. I'm going to go for preemptive strike. Once I open a gap in their perimeter, make a run for it. I'll keep them off your back. There's no time to debate this. Let's go. I break down into a sprint, heading for a point where 3 of the 5 men surrounding us can easily move to intercept. As expected, they instantly launch a simultaneous attack, aiming to trap me in a pincer. There we go! I dodged grasping arms from the left and right at the very last possible moment, slipping forward to leave 2 of the men charging directly at each other. A pair of dark-suited men jerked to an unsteady halt like a pair of outfielders chasing some fly ball. Seizing the moment, I grabbed them by the legs and flipped them off their feet. The 2 men hit the ground head first with a satisfying pair of thunks. Before I can even confirm they're staying down, their buddies got a sleeper chokehold on me from behind. But I seen this coming from the moment he started circling around behind me. I bent back into the hole, then strained my abdominal muscles and swing my body sharply forward. Tossed over my shoulder in a throw you might see in a judo competition, the man flies a good 2 meters forward before landing face first in the dirt. That's 3 taken care of. Now all I need to do is keep the 2 coming from behind occupied long enough for Sakaki to get clear. Alright, now, run, Sakaki! Hurry up! Don't have time to argue. Still shooting reluctant glances in my direction, Sakaki begins to run along the riverbank. The other 2 attackers quickly try to slip past me and pursue her. Not happening. As the pair splits apart to either side, I hurl a stone tied to a heavy string toward the feet of the fast runner. Tripped up by the cord, the man turns to somersault in the air and lands awkwardly on the ground, the one arm crunching loudly underneath him. Even as I'm confirming that he's down, I've begun to grapple with his partner. The moment we come to grips, it's clear to me that I've left the most troublesome one of the bunch for last. His physique didn't particularly stand out in this group, but he's got dense muscles and an excellently balanced body. This is exactly his sort of fight. I was hoping to take him down smoothly and catch up with Sakaki, but I guess that's not happening. I can only pray Sakaki manages to get out of here on her own. Silent except for his intermittent breathing, the man moves his body back and forth in a variety of ways, probing for a gap in my defenses. It's a far cry from the frantic wriggling of an amateur. Every movement has meaning. I can't let down my guard for even a moment. Please get out of here. Keeping half an eye on Sakaki, I desperately hold him in check. And just as she's finally reaching the front of the slope, distracted by the fight behind her, Sakaki stumbles over a heavy patch of undergrowth and falls to the ground. Sakaki! For a split second, her scream distracts me. That's all it takes. Dizzyingly intense pain shoots through my left arm. He got me! I can feel the skin of my arm rapidly growing hot, as if suddenly plunged into a tub of boiling water. A small glinting silver knife sticks straight out of my forearm like some absurd work of modern art. My grip on the man weakens against my will. In an instant, he's broken free of the grapple. The corners of his mouth curl up in something vaguely resembling a smile, as he turns his attention to Sakaki. Sakaki scrambles frantically across the ground, her face distorted with terror. As if savoring the moment, the man begins to lope toward her at a relaxed pace. His first moment of carelessness. I won't let you! With one sharp yank, I tear the knife out of my arm and then hurl it at the man's ankle. The man collapses on the ground and reaches down for his wounded leg. Before I can get his hands around the knife, I straddle him and smash his face into his solar plexus. Gastric juice spraying from his mouth, the man loses consciousness. I can feel blood flowing rapidly out of my body. Abruptly released from the tension of the fight, exhausted and bleeding, I look up to find the world swaying before my eyes. Sakaki rises to her feet and runs over. Staring wide-eyed at the blood streaming down my arm, she presses her hands to her mouth, speechless with horror. I'm fine. You need to get out of here, Saki. Hurry. It'll be alright once I stop the bleeding. Get moving. There might be more where these guys came from. Completely ignoring my repeated instructions to run, Sakaki reaches into her breast pocket, takes out her handkerchief, and holds it to my wound. The pure white piece of cloth is quickly dyed bright red. Her anguished expression distorts still further. I've heard people say women are a little less queasy around blood because of their regular menstrual cycle, but I doubt that makes an injury like this any less surreal and terrifying. I'm telling you, it's fine. Right now, you need to... Sakaki's face is filled with uncharacteristically raw and obvious emotion. But then again, lately I've seen quite a few human expressions starting to leak out from behind that indifferent front of hers. In any case, there's no point letting this circular argument drag on forever. We're just wasting time at this point. Fine. Tie it tightly just under the elbow. Sorry about the handkerchief, but keep it over the wound itself for now. There should be bandages in my bag. Can you wrap one over the entire area? I appreciate it. With my guidance, Saki performs a rudimentary first aid. Soon I'm back on my feet. The blood loss has left me more than a little lightheaded, but we nonetheless hurry along the road home as quickly as possible. After all, there's no telling what else those people might have planned. The old rules clearly no longer apply. Sakaki hasn't spoken a word, most likely out of concern for me. It's painfully obvious that she's worried, but that only makes this feel even worse. Pathetic. What kind of bodyguard makes their client worry about them? For the moment, I've got to get us back to safe ground and plan some immediate countermeasures. Their tactics have changed on a fundamental level. We can't get away with the usual routine anymore. Across from the red glow of the setting sun, a flock of black rain clouds push threateningly into the sky as if to reinforce the looming threat. Looks like it's gonna be another rainy night.
そうか。傷は負わせることに成功したんだな。次は確実に仕留めろ。ああ。やむを得ん状況ならば殺しても構わん。由美子が暴れるようなら無理にでも車に押し込めて連れてこい。いいな。邪魔はさせん。私は私のやりたいようにやるのだ。私の言うことを聞け、由美子。
おかえ、ちょっと
Understandably, it didn't take long for Hermione to notice that something was wrong. Practically the moment we're inside the dorm, our shocked voice attracts the attention of everyone lounging around in the lobby. As they run up, the blood seems to drain from their faces.
これどうしたのよさ、お兄ちゃん。包帯が真っ赤です。血で。何？事故とか？それとも何かあったの？ねえ。
The lazy summer evening quickly gives way to a borderline panic.
とりあえず 病院へ連絡した方がいい？それとも連れて行こうか？
No. There are some complicated circumstances, so I'd prefer not to make too much of a scene. A little treatment here should be enough, Sachi.
はい。
Sorry, but can you help me out?
はい、わかりました。今すぐ。私も手伝うわ。お湯とか沸かせばいいんだっけ？みちる様、お子さんを産むわけではありません。でも清潔なタオルとかそういうのは必要です。オッケー。
Sachi and Michiru noisily dash back to their respective rooms. I guess I'll head to my room for a moment. Sakaki, would you help me over there?
ええ、もちろんよ。
I appreciate it.
部屋に行って詳しい話を聞くしかなさそうね。妙な匂いがプンプンなのよさ。
A few minutes later, after Sakaki helps me into bed, Sachi treats my wound with the skill of an experienced nurse. It's no worse than what I would have gotten at the hospital. Our maid's fearsome capabilities in this field are worthy of further examination, but for the moment, explaining the situation to the uneasy classmates gathered around me has to come first.
なんか、とんでもない話になってきたわね。
Amani responds to my brief summary with these words and a worried sigh. Everyone had some idea that Sakaki had been coming under attack, but a knife coming into play seems to have left them more than a little disturbed. Understandably so.
ユミちゃんに何もなかったのは幸いだったのよさ。さすがは風見さんです。とはいえ、傷は心配ですが。
You don't need to worry about me. A change in strategy just caught me by surprise today, that's all. I won't slip up like that next time.
そうなの？ユミコもユージも大丈夫って思っていいのよね。
Yes, of course. It's a lie. An attempt to reassure them nothing more. The ex-military man who knifed me today was a seriously tough opponent, and the others were no slouches either. Even under ideal circumstances, it would have been a tough fight. My failure this time is only going to encourage them to double down on the tough tactics. And while they can bring in fresh bodies, my cuts and bruises are going to start slowing me down eventually. I need to start devising countermeasures sooner rather than later. Sakaki's been very quiet for a while now. Her face is distinctly downcast. It's not like she's the one who stabbed me, but since she's been known to try on occasion, it's probably best not to joke about that. Sorry, but I'm feeling a little tired. Think you can let me sleep for a while?
そっか、了解。じゃあ私らは退散するわね。
Even Amani doesn't seem eager to throw the usual banter around, understandably under the circumstances. Sakaki, I'm sure today was a little nerve-wracking for you. Being alone might be frightening right now, so why don't you sleep over in someone else's room? Sorry, Sachi, but would you mind?
はい、わかりました。榊さん、行きましょう。わかったわ。
Let me know immediately if you notice anything suspicious. They haven't tried anything on school grounds so far, but there's no telling what comes next.
はい、了解。
Sakaki barely said a word right up until the moment Sachi hustled her out of the room. It weighs on my mind a little. But even as I try to think it over, I feel myself sinking slowly into unconsciousness. As I sleep, I dream of Sakaki. I see her as a young girl, standing very still in absolute darkness, sobbing endlessly. When I approach her, her appearance changes to the young woman I know. But the tears don't stop falling from her face. No matter what I say to her, Sakaki stands oblivious in the darkness, crying bitter tears. Sakaki? The moment I wake up, I notice an odd sensation enveloping my left hand. The darkened room is silent, but I still sense someone's presence nearby. It almost feels like a continuation of the dream, but when I move my eyes to the side, the truth becomes clear. Aww. Sakaki? I'm sure Sachi ushered her out of the room. She should be sleeping by now. Instead, she's sitting at my side.
ごめんなさい。 起こしてしまったかしら。
That's alright. I got some sleep. Have you been sitting here all this time? She answers with a quiet nod. Aww.
どうしても心配だったから、小峰さんの部屋に着いてすぐ戻ってきてしまったの。
Ah.
で、ずっと握っててごめんなさい。
Well, that's okay. The strange warmth surrounding my left wrist was coming from Sakaki's hands. I don't really mind.
そう。
Sakaki's downturned eyes briefly steal a glance at my face. They're a little bloodshot, and I can see a hint of red in her cheeks. Seems that dream just now might have been accurate in a way.
本当にごめんなさい。
Stroking my hand a little, she speaks in a sincerely apologetic tone. Oh, nothing to worry yourself over. When you're on guard duty, that sort of thing always a possibility. Let's just be thankful no one ended up in the hospital.
でも、
From the look on her face, I can tell Sakaki isn't remotely convinced by this line of argument. Look, it's nothing you need to feel guilty about. I accepted your request, so I'll put my body on the line when necessary. Even if I get a little banged up, as long as you're safe, that's a success. It's all that matters to me.
成功なわけないでしょ。何を言ってるの。
All of a sudden, her quiet voice was rough and quavery.
何を言ってるのよ。本当に。こんな怪我して成功なんて。
Seems I chose my words somewhat poorly. Sakaki reached to the end of her endurance. Tears, clearly not the first she said tonight, fall onto my bandaged hand. Sakaki?
ごめんなさい。私、この間からあなたに情けない姿ばかりを。
The quiet crying begins to grow in intensity. Gasping my palm tightly, Sakaki heaves with sobs like a frightened child, teardrops raining from her face. Her voice echoes loudly inside the otherwise hushed room. From the outside of the window, I can hear the faint sound of water cutting through the air. Come to think of it, the forecast today called for rain a little after midnight. It's exactly the sort of dark, ugly rain Sakaki hates so much.
怖いのよ。怖くて仕方ないの。
I know. After a few minutes of wordless crying, the words slip out of her mouth. Afraid of what?
私のために周囲の人がこんな目に遭うのが本当に怖くて嫌で仕方ないのよ。このままだと風見くんも寮の子たちだって私のせいで嫌な目に遭わせてしまうかもしれない。
Sakaki squeezes down tighter and tighter. A tear lands on the top of her rigid, trembling hands, then another.
もうあんなことは本当に。
Losing her mother, betrayed by her father, denied even the chance to make friends, she was pushed into a mock school built as a gilded cage. On an emotional level, it's not surprising that Sakaki finds this latest breakdown deeply painful. But that's also why I want to do something for her. The job isn't easy under these circumstances, but if I can give her some peace of mind, I honestly don't mind taking a few wounds like this. Looking up at Sakaki's miserable face, I find myself regretting that I didn't manage to pass it off as a lighter injury.
あなたを風見くんをこれ以上苦しめるわけにはいかない。
Don't worry about me. I can still do my job even if...
分かってよ。私あなたのことを本当に心配しているのよ。
Her voice is desperate, hoarse from the tears. I don't remember the last time I felt such powerful hatred for my own incompetence. Complete silence settles over the room. Sakaki's eyes don't leave mine. With a sorrowful expression on her face, she opens her mouth and speaks sorrowful words.
あなたを解雇します。
What? For a moment I wonder if I misheard. But she doesn't hesitate or try to confirm my fears.
依頼だからなのよね。私を守ってくれるのは。だから、あなたを解雇します。
What are you saying? You saw those people today. Without me around next time, they'll definitely...
構わないわ。それであなたや寮のみんなが無事なら。
Damn it. To be certain, although they attack me today, their target is Sakaki alone. If I leave her side, the main threat disappears. Those dangerous goons will probably decrease in number, maybe even disappear altogether. But of course, that's simply because they'll be able to accomplish their objective even without the muscle. I'd swore I'd protect Sakaki. After making a promise like that, I can't accept a request to abandon her. I'm sorry, but you're still in danger. I'm not willing to shrug my shoulders and walk away. I refuse to resign.
ダメよ。強制的にでも破棄するわ。
Do you know what you're saying here? These people aren't playing around anymore. You're going to...
分かってちょうだい。
Listen to me, Sakaki.
分かって。お願いだから。お願いだから。分かってよ。
Sakaki's expression tells the story. That's all it needs to say. There isn't something else she just said at the spur of the moment. It was a painful decision, made after long thought. The tracks her tears have left on her face, the tightly clenched hands, that anguished inner debate has left its marks on her. But just because I understand the depth of her resolve doesn't mean I can accept this. It's painfully frustrating to know my sloppiness drove her to such an agonizing decision. Alright. I accept your dismissal. Sakaki isn't going to budge no matter what I say. For the moment. There's no other way to give her relief. The instant I speak those words, the tension drains out of her hands.
ごめんなさい。私。
It's as if a heavy weight has fallen from her shoulders, as if she's lost something precious. A hollow excuse for a smile on her face. Sakaki continues to apologize to me. Don't apologize. You're not in the wrong. The sound of the rain outside gradually grows louder. A harsh pattering fills the dark room, cut off even from the light of the moon. As of this day, my employment with Sakaki Yumiko came to an end in the form of a dismissal. Things are no better than they were at the beginning. No one's been saved. It's the emptiest of all possible conclusions. Alrighty, I think that's enough for today, and I will see you all on Friday. As we continue, what's gonna happen? Now that Yuuji's no longer guarding Sakaki, you know she's gonna get kidnapped. It's only a matter of time. But what are they gonna do to her? What does her father have planned? Well, the story's not over. It's just beginning, really. So, I'll see you all on Friday. Have a good day.